Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Musically Mindful, a show where I sit down with your favorite musicians, artists, and other people behind the scenes to discuss mental health within the music space. However, this week, I don't have a musician with me. I don't have a photographer or an artist. It's just going to be me. And the reason for that is that I decided to do an episode about a particular topic and something that's personal to me. The day that this episode comes out, being May 22nd of 2024, is the 2-year anniversary of me getting sober. Now, for people that know me, know that I have also had other, anniversaries of different aspects of sobriety within my life. I fortunately am 11 years clean of opiates. I am in July or June, I think July or August of this year is 10 years without cigarettes. But 2 years ago, I decided that it was my time. I had had my fun, flew a little too close to the sun, didn't get burnt, but got a little crispy. And I was just at my crossroads of making a change for multiple reasons. And what I want to talk about today is kind of my journey to getting there, my journey with, substance abuse, as well as the beautiful nature of what sobriety has given me these past 2 years. It's a difficult relationship to have for anybody when it comes to substance use, abuse, wherever you fall within the spectrum. It can be exploration. It can be running away from things. It can be seeking things. It can be whatever it is to you in the moment. There are pressures, there are the feeling of needing to do something because other people are, or because you don't know who you are and you are trying to find that. And I've come to a number of realizations, one of which being that all of the things that you try, the substances, they don't define who you are. They're not reflective of your personality or the person that you are. They're choices, and they are secular moments in time and particular instances of you deciding to try something for whatever the reason may be. And sobriety has given me way more, and taking those things out of my life has given me more than I ever realized that they would take away. And I've been very fortunate throughout the years to, frankly, get higher than I ever fucking thought that I could, have more fun, explore myself, my mind, my heart, other people, drugs in general. I've had a lot of really beautiful experiences, and I don't regret a single one of them. I don't disparage drug use. Marlboro Reds taste fantastic. LSD is fucking sick. And the reality of that being, they just don't serve me anymore. And that's okay. And right now, that's where I'm at. I'm no fucking saint. I've done a lot of bad things, and I've hurt myself. I've hurt other people. And the reality is that I have to accept that those things are a part of me. And I'm actually learning more and more to love that guy, because the me of those years is still within me, because it still is me. And the hardest thing within that is recognizing that I let myself get to those places. My journey with substance abuse goes way back. I or I guess substance use and abuse. They both go way back, but initially the first thing that I ever did was start smoking cigarettes. When I was 11 in 6th grade, I I never for me it was never peer pressure. My mom would smoke cigarettes in the garage and talk to her girlfriends on the phone, and I would just, I'd come home from my hard 11-year-old 6th grade life and be like, man, I am stressed out. I could use something like that. And I'd swipe a cigarette from her purse. And then I'd swipe two so that I could take one with me to go hang out with my friends. And then I would take a few more. And then I'd have cigarettes. And at the time, my mom was a heavy smoker and had cartons of Marlboro Lights in the house. So I would take a pack. And then I had a pack of cigarettes on me at 11 years old. And you just kind of start and you go down the rabbit hole. And then 7th grade comes along and you have kids in town that are starting to smoke weed, or their older siblings are starting to smoke weed. And I was privy to that both in my own and my friends. And then 8th grade comes along and, you've been like sipping beer here and there and what have you, but like you and your friends find ways to like actually get alcohol and get in trouble and get drunk on Halloween at your friend's house. And, girls come and hang out. And it's to have those experiences in middle school when your brain is still formulating things and you're still learning and physically growing and you're going through puberty and all of those things is a wild time to experience the exploration otherwise. And by the time I got to high school, I was already I was a habitual smoker, smoked weed every day and would drink whenever I felt like it. And then getting into high school, I always surrounded myself, or rather, I didn't surround myself with actually anybody. I always kind of had to find groups to try to fit into. I had my core friends, but we were all troubled kids. A lot of us had issues at home. A lot of us had issues within ourselves, not knowing who we are, what we wanted. And I had all of those things, and it forced me to try to figure them out. And drugs was my way of doing so. I, in 9th grade, I tried LSD for the first time, and it was a mind altering and life altering experience that just led to so many more. And that was the crux of my drug use for a while, or not for a while, through my entire tenure of partying. That was my go-to, and eventually kind of what I became known for within circles of friends and otherwise. But my sophomore year of high school, shortly after that, I got introduced to some popular kids in school and some bad kids, and was already partying and found opiates. And it is still to this day arguably the worst decision that I've ever made. I do not recommend that to anyone, but I did it. And it started off light. You get a couple blues and you snort them with your friends, and then that leads to you going way deeper and finding a plug for oxys, and you find more and more, and then you're a 16-year-old kid, with a bag of oxys and doses in his pocket, and you're selling to friends, and you're selling enough pills to have left over so that you could just do them for free. And like, I remember going to a party with a pill bottle full of blues and like selling them to kids and also splitting them with the kids and then leaving the party with profit and pills, and you're 16 and you have money and you're fucking high as a kite and you don't have any real problems yet. And it was great and it was fun, and I'm smoking weed all the time. It just, you never think anything bad's going to happen. And then you get older and you keep going, and your friends are starting to get into trouble and you're getting in trouble and you make mistakes, and you have some friends that can't do all of the drugs that you want to do. So you do the ones that they can with them. A good friend of mine that is no longer with us and an inspiration to a lot of my psychedelic and just general drug exploration, my friend Max, there was a point where he was getting drug tested and the only thing that he couldn't get caught with was DMT. And I'm not going to get into the whole backstory, but he had his own apartment, and we would just hang out in his apartment on a Tuesday and smoke DMT all day. And I still have a trash can in my garage that was a project that him and I and our other friends would just draw art on. We would just trip out on DMT on a fucking love sack, beanbag, and a couch, and just draw on this garbage can. And it's trippy as fuck. And the back of it has a banana with a Megusta meme face and these pieces of toast that say ghost cracked out toast. And like, you can't fabricate those kind of memories, and you can't, it just happens, and it's organic, and it's the nature of just getting high with no intention to other than just get high. And I at that time also, started to foray into different types of music, and that pushed my drug use forward. I luckily, my senior year of high school, I got off of pills, I got off of opiates. It was a 3-year stint that got to a really bad point of where I remember being in second period in environmental science. It might have been my junior year, with this teacher named Mr. Ritchie. And I was so angry at that time of the other things in my personal life that I'd come into class and I'd stuff a pill in my textbook and smash it and rail it off my textbook in the middle of class, and then nod out or get yelled at and sent down to the principal's office. And I had really bad anger issues in high school too, and my drug use did not help that. I was friendly, but I wasn't, and I was angry, and I would get into a lot of trouble and break shit, and I never wanted to hurt other people, so I would hurt myself, or I would do damage in the school, like break a vending machine or break a locker, or just do stupid shit. I threw desks at teachers, and that teacher, Mr. Ritchie, one time said something that to tell the brief story. I was sitting in class, we were learning about volcanoes, and I was actually taking notes, and I was having fun. I was enjoying learning about volcanoes, and I never took notes. I barely ever had a backpack or a notebook. And I'm paying attention, and my feet are up. I don't know what kind of high school you went to. In some of my classrooms, the desks were like the stand-up desks that had like a little wire on the middle of the legs, and my feet are on the legs. And I'm just sitting there. I'm completely minding my business, enjoying learning about volcanoes, and I'm taking notes. And Mr. Ritchie says, he looked and sounded like Santa Claus, just FYI, to paint a picture. And he says, Michael, put your feet down. And I'm like, dude, I'm minding my business. Just teach me about volcanoes. And he's like, Michael, put your feet down. And I'm like, dude, like, fuck off. Just teach me about volcanoes. And he looks at me and he goes, Michael, didn't your mother ever teach you any manners? Or was she just not around when you were a kid? And at that point, the entire class, it's not like that, ooh, someone's in trouble. It's like everybody knew me and knew that something bad was going to happen. So I stood up and I walked up to the front of the room, got behind his desk, kind of got no chest to chest, and this grown man is doesn't know what's going to happen, and I just say what I, in my high angry, I'm just like, what the fuck? I also had a very bad mouth and still do, especially back then. I had no respect for teachers or anybody really, not even myself most times. But it was like, what the fuck did you say? Like, you don't know my mom, you don't know me, like watch your fucking mouth. And he's like, Michael, it's an expression. And I said, well, this is an expression. And I walked over to a desk and I picked up a chair, and if you ever had those boards in school that had like the electric pens, they were like a computer, like touch screen board. I picked up a chair and I fucking smacked the board as hard as I could, and it like didn't explode, but you see like the light flash and like the ink inside. It was a whole thing, and I got suspended for that, and I got in a lot of trouble my sophomore and junior year in high school, and all of my friends got fucking arrested, some for drugs, some for other things, and it was just a bad time, honestly. But a lot of that's the product of my own action and my own disdain and things like that. But I so yeah, we that my core group, Max and otherwise, and people that I won't mention by name, we really pushed ourselves to try drugs. We bought shit off of Silk Road and the dark web, and tried things like MIPT and DIPT and research chemicals, and we got into this thing of JWH, which is like a synthetic THC, and like we went hard. We did a lot of drugs and had a lot of fun, and some of us were better than others. I always took care of myself. I never ever needed anybody to help me. I always was fine in some respects. And so yeah, by the time I was a senior in high school, I had already gotten on and off of pills and had done every drug under the sun. Like, you name it, I tried it. To this day, the only drugs that I almost got to the point of heroin, and I never touched it. And there was a point when I was really heavy into oxys where there was a needle present and it was offered, and it scared the shit out of me. And I'm glad that I was enough of a pussy to not do it. Um, but yeah, I tried cocaine, didn't like it. I never tried ketamine because before I like stopped doing powders and nose drugs, ketamine wasn't like a popular thing yet, or at least not. I was fucking 17. So it just wasn't as prevalent. And, but yeah, all the research chemicals, I remember so many times. I mean, you name it, I tried it. And so senior year of high school, my friends and I went to our first music festival. We went to Camp Bisco, and I my whole world got rocked. I did the best Molly that I'd ever done in my life, and was tripping balls at a festival. And I'm like, there's chicks, half naked girls running around, and the disco biscuits are firing. And I remember before we went, I had no idea about electronic music. And we go, or my friend's older brother and his friends had gone the year before, and they were like, you got to come. And we were like, we want to go. I remember saying, like, I don't want to go listen to techno. Like, why do I want to go? And I look at the lineup, and Big Boy from Outkast was on the lineup. And then I was like, okay, like, I'm in, because hip hop was my first love. And we get there, and and then I got into a whole whirlwind of jam bands, but really electronic music. And I got into Dylan Francis and Excision and Bass Nectar and Skrillex and Tiesto, and like all the huge DJs of the time. And that stuck around for a little bit, but never, it wasn't to go see the music. It was to go get high as I fucking could and party and try to hang out with girls and do and just be part of a community that was doing that. And I had some fun, man. I went to a lot of really cool shows and a lot of cool venues. And I remember New Year's Eve, like 2012, maybe. We saw Dada Life in an abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn, and there was a 1,000-person pillow fight. And we went to camp. I went to Camp Bisco 7 years in a row, 8 years in a row, and I mean, I remember I went to Counterpoint Music Festival in Georgia in 2014 and did mescaline from our neighbors and don't remember the whole fucking day. And yeah, it just propelled my drug use even further. And something else that also happened that senior year of high school was that my father passed away 2 months before graduation when I was 17. And I mean, you add all of these things together. I'm a troubled kid whose dad just died, that's getting into the jam band and festival scene, that already has a drug problem. I mean, it's it's a recipe for disaster. And luckily, I survived all of it somehow. But yeah, it just made me keep wanting to explore and find myself. And credit to my mom, who to this day I have never talked about all of my usage extensively. And maybe she'll listen to this and it'll paint a picture, or maybe I'm just the dipshit kid that doesn't know that my mom knew everything I was doing, but she let me make my mistakes and learn how to be a person. And I didn't have a curfew, and I was so bad in school, but she loved me anyway, and she taught me, and she just let me fuck up and make mistakes. And the beautiful thing about that is she always supported my endeavors to go see music. I remember, I think it was like 2015 or 16, my mom bought me a New Year's Eve fish ticket because I went the first 2 nights and I didn't the third night. And I was so sad. And my friends were going, and she was like, Michael, so go. I was like, I can't afford the ticket. She's like, so I'll buy it for you. Go. Like, Merry Christmas. And she would like go on the Disco Biscuits website, and she like bought me a hat and a poster one time. I'm pretty sure it's on my wall over there. My the festival poster from my first Camp Bisco. My mom bought online on the website after the festival and gave me that and a Camp Bisco hat for Christmas or something that year. And it's just funny that amidst all of my darkness and my use and my other things, music was always a constant that my mom supported, that I loved, because she knew it meant something to me, even if she didn't understand it. And to this day, probably still doesn't, because I've seen hundreds and hundreds of concerts, and she just knows that it's my thing. And I'll mention a friend's name, and she's like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's this person that I know through this band in this state in this." It's a crazy connectivity, and I parallel a lot of my drug use with my foray into music, both from an exploration standpoint, from a desire to just party and be enveloped in the chemical culture. But the crazy thing is, like, I got into drugs heavy before all of that. So by the time I got to like regular festival, jam band parts of my life, I had already gotten on and off drugs. I wasn't putting anything up my nose anymore. So like all my friends are ripping through bags of blow and buying balls of K and all this stuff. And I'm just like, cool, I'm gonna go eat a bunch of acid and some ecstasy because I'm good. I had my fun there. I used to, do like computer duster and whippets in high school. And so like I didn't fucking care for nitrous because I don't like what it brought around. And I just was like, I'd rather just go smoke weed or do something else. Um So yeah, as I delved further into the jam band world and further into the festival scene and got away from the electronic music because it wasn't anything other than going and doing drugs and watching girls with their cheeks out covered in glitter. For me, it is something to somebody, and those guys are talented and they're artists and they're unique, and people that love that I don't disparage in any way. It just after a while I didn't serve me and I didn't enjoy it the same. So I really hopped hard onto Disco Biscuits tour and got into Fish, and that led me to other bands, and Pigeons was a major part of my life and personal development, and a lot of those bands I've been lucky enough to find friendships within and meet a lot of those artists, and it's only continued to grow and grow. But at that time, all that I wanted to do was acid all the time, all the time. On a Tuesday after school, on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at concerts. I have been in more scenarios on LSD than most people will in a lifetime. I've been at family gatherings, I've been at concerts, I've been at parties, I've been in the back of a police car, I've been on the top of a mountain, I've been I mean, I could keep going on and on, but acid was my drug of choice because it was the one that I could do all the time that felt safe. And I had a really big respect for LSD. And after a while, I kind of became like, if anybody needed a dose, they would ask me because we'd go to a festival and I'd have a sheet in my fanny pack, or we'd go to a concert and I'd put an extra 10 strip in my wallet just in case somebody else wanted to trip with me. And I got into really large quantities too, and I would, eating a 10 strip or eating 20 hits was commonplace. And I found really great connections and had really phenomenal acid and really had some explorative times with LSD and really learned things about myself and learned things about the world and admittedly used it as an escape a lot of time. And it was part of my identity because I didn't have one of my own. I was comfortable being like the acid guy. I was comfortable knowing that that was my place. That if somebody wanted to come and talk to me, it was probably about acid. If somebody was looking to trip for the first time and have like a guru or a guide, I loved filling that void because it gave me something to do and something to be. And it was just the right thing to take me away from being myself. But also it made me feel like I was myself. I never felt more comfortable than when I was on acid. And I would do acid to get regular. I would smoke weed to get regular. And I would do the other shit just for fun. I would go to a show and get a little drunk, or I would go and I remember like walking out of Camp Bisco one year and the festival was over. And I bought six Incredible Hulk pressies from somebody on the way out. And we go, I think it was right after that was the Baker's Dozen. And we go to Fish. And I think the first or second night that we go, me and two of my other friends, we ate all the pressies. So like it was just a continuous. I always had acid. I always had ecstasy. I always had or Molly or I always had something. I was never dry of drugs. I always had weed. I always had dabs. I always had whatever I needed. Um, because that's the addict mind is I might not have money, but I have something to get high. I might not be able to eat today, but I have enough weed to be stoned enough to forget about it. And I look back on those times and I recognize the person that I was And I'm learning more and more to love who that guy was because he was fun. He was a good time. I find I'm even weirdly talking about myself in the third person, but nevertheless, I was fun. I was not to say that I'm not anymore. I actually love myself more now, and I think I'm better now than I was then. But it comes in the reflection of being sober, and like, you're in a car with your friends and you're the sober one driving and everyone's high and laughing and having fun and you're like not in that headspace. Or you're at a hotel after party and everybody's sucking down balloons and doing bumps and they're all high and they're all on a wave and a hive mind and you're just hanging out because you love being with your friends. And it's challenging sometimes and it's hard sometimes. I can never say, or let me frame it this way. I got a tattoo on my 1 year sober day that says not today. And the reason that I got that is because I don't know where I'm going to be in a year. I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be next week in terms of my sobriety because there's temptation at every turn. I feel very fortunate to have become a very rigorously disciplined individual, and I have a lot of self control. And also, luckily, I didn't get sober just because I felt like I had to. I got sober because I wanted to, because it was time. But the only thing that I can do is say not today. And I've done it for 2 years now. And I don't plan on stopping, but I can only take it one day at a time. And I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth, and there's years and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really write anything down here. I'm just kind of talking openly about the things I do remember because a lot of them I might not. But yeah, I pushed myself a lot and I put myself in precarious scenarios and did things that maybe weren't the best for me or tried something that I didn't even really want to do, but that I was like, oh, well, like, that's the thing to do. I didn't have enough confidence in myself not to. I didn't have enough strength in myself not to. I didn't have an identity I was comfortable with. I didn't love myself. So I numbed myself. And again, I can't regret it. I can't take it back. I needed to do what I did at the time to survive and get through and make those mistakes and hang out with the right people and the wrong people and go to the right show and the wrong show and sell to the right kid and the wrong kid and I'm proud of that person that I was, and I'm proud of or yeah, I don't know. That's a hard thing to say out loud, and I don't really know if I feel that way all the way yet. I'm proud of who I am now. And like I said before, that guy still is me. It's still a part of me. But I like the fact that I can talk about drugs in this capacity. I have friends that have gotten sober that disparage it. I have friends that, oh, it's the worst thing that ever happened to me. Drugs are awful. They can be. They can also be really fucking great. I wouldn't have had a lot of the experiences that I did without drug use. I wouldn't have a lot of the fun that I did. I wouldn't have had the heightened experiences. I wouldn't be rolling balls on the floor of Madison Square Garden at Fish when they took a photo of me and put it on Instagram. I wouldn't have gone to those festivals and had a Sharpie smiley face drawn on my entire torso that I sweat off in the tent at Dylan Francis because I was on so much fucking Molly. And I wouldn't have taken gram dabs and met glass artists, and I wouldn't have met friends through LSD and dealing and giving out acid. And yeah, I just wouldn't be me. And that's why I wouldn't change it. And that's why I don't disparage my own usage, because it made me who I am. It helped me learn things about myself. It helped me travel and explore. And, there's that SpongeBob line of Patrick that's like, the inner macerations of my mind are an enigma. And my brain is fucked and was fucked back then. And it helped me get a hold on it and also not get a hold on it and just have some fucking fun. Like, let's be real, dude. Going to a show and getting high as fuck and dancing and sweating, and there's fucking girls everywhere and your best friends are there and you're arm in arm and you're joking around, and it's fun. It's just fun. But when it stops being fun, like it did with opiates, like it has now with everything else, is a reality. When I got off of opiates, there was a kid in high school that I don't know if you ever had a house that it was just like the parents didn't care or they weren't home. Like everyone could just go there and hang out and get high. And like the kid was fucking stupid rich and whatever. And I remember I went to his house. I got picked up and did my, like, I woke up in the morning, snorted a pill, got picked up by an older kid that had a car. We split a pill and smoked a blunt on the way to the kid's house, got to the kid's house, hung out there for however long, did more pills. He had like a 3-foot zong that we like took bong rips out of. And mind you, it's like 7:30 in the morning and I already railed 3 or 4 pills and I smoked a bunch of weed. And I go into the bathroom and I had literally just split an oxy with this kid. And I go in the bathroom and I take another one out of my pocket and I go on. They had like a dish on top. There's a little dish on top of the toilet that had like candles and stuff on it. I remember I just brushed the candles onto the fucking floor and I took the tray and I broke up another pill and I snorted it and I fucking passed out on this kid's toilet. And they're all high and not paying attention, so they go to school, forget me. I slept through the entire school day in this kid's bathroom. And I get woken up to banging on the door. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, coming out of a knotted off stupor. And I'm like, what? What? And he's like, who the fuck is in there? And I'm like, it's Mike, dude. Like, I get up and I'm like, fucking, my legs are shot and they're asleep. And I'm like, whoa. And I get up and I come out of the bathroom and he's looking at me. He's like, bro, like, when the fuck did you get here? I was like, what do you mean, dude? Nick and I, like, what are you talking about? Like, you just watched me take a bong rip. And he was like, bro, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. I nodded out and slept through an entire school day. And I was like, whoa. And I had to like take a step back. And it got to the point, I don't want to get into the, well, I mean, I guess I could. I got to the point that I was doing an unhealthy number of Oxy 80s daily. And it was just attributing to my anger issues, and it was making me just a really shitty human. And I had to stop. I was like, I don't want to be this guy. I can't. So I didn't go to, I was always very good about keeping my addictions hidden, or at least I think. I don't fucking know. Um, like, my parents never caught me with pills. I never went to rehab. I just did it. I remember it was like a long school weekend or something, and I just like went through with I stayed in my room and I like went through my withdrawals and sweat and shivered and got it out of my system, and then like, cool, like now I'm off opiates. Like now I'm gonna smoke as much weed and cigarettes and do everything else because I don't want to go and do that. And it just expedites and gets worse and worse. And eventually, I was a pack a day Marlboro Red smoker for years, and before that, it was Newports and Marlboro 27s and Camel XLs and Camel Crushes and Camel Number 9. I remember I smoked Camel Number 9s just because there was a kid's older brother and the pack was black and pink, and I was like, well, that's fucking sweet. I'm gonna smoke those now. dumbest shit ever. I smoked filterless Lucky Strikes at a point because I was like, okay, these cigarettes aren't enough. I need something more, just wild. But yeah, it's the reality of the music scene that we're in is that it is a heavily influenced by a chemical culture. Bands do drugs. People that go see bands do drugs. Some people can handle it. Some people can't. I did fine. I was never the guy that needed help. I never got kicked out of a show. There was one time at Camp Bisco that I ate way too much Molly and acid and was so spun that a friend of mine had to take me out of the tent and not like carry me, but just be like, hey, like, let's go get some air. And I remember we sat with our backs to the fence and I'm holding a flashlight for him because he's breaking up weed so that he's just force feeding me cigarettes and rolling joints. And for anybody that went to Camp Bisco back in like 2011 to 13, or maybe even before that, in Mariahville at the Indian Lookout Reservation, the security was the Hells Angels. So I think it was during Lotus in the big tent. I think it was literally called the big tent. And we're sitting outside of it with our backs up against the fence, and I'm holding a phone light high as a fucking kite, chain smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, and a flashlight comes up and shines down on us. And it's two Hells Angels. And they're like, hey, like, what's going on here, fellas? And I remember my friend and I looked at each other and we literally just held our hands up and we're like, we're just smoking weed. And this guy looks at us and is like, oh, us too, and pulls out like a Sherlock pipe. So now we stand up and we're standing in a circle with two Hells Angels. Mind you, I'm like fucking 18, 17 maybe. I don't even remember which year it was, but we're passing around a Sherlock pipe and a joint. And this Hell's Angel, the guy's got a fucking Bowie knife the size of my forearm on his hip. And, you hear stories. And the guy, remember, he looks at me, got a huge handlebar mustache, the cut, everything. And he's just like, so how you guys enjoying the festival? And we're like, oh, man, like, we're having a blast. Like, Bisco is our favorite place. Like, we're having so much fun. And they're like, yeah, we've been talking to all you kids and stuff, and we're glad you're all having fun. And everybody, people are running around afraid of us, like, oh my God, they're killers. We're not killers. And I'm staring at the knife on this guy's hip. And all that's in my head is I'm like, yeah, maybe you're not a killer like in the past like 20 minutes. Like, I don't fucking know. And I just remember I like nudged my friend. I'm like, we need to get the fuck out of here. So we finish up the pipe and they're still talking to us. And I'm like, hey man, like we're going to go find our friends. And we just ran into the tent, into a scene of totems and Ellie and lights and fucking who knows what. But yeah, it's experiences like that that just make me realize the places that I've been and drugs have taken me to, or just music, both, all of it, life. Um, but yeah, it got to a point eventually where it wasn't fun anymore. Smoking weed wasn't fun anymore. It didn't make me feel good. It didn't give me what it used to. It wasn't that leveling out. It was different. And a lot of that really turned around when I had a really bad injury in the summer of 2018. I got hit in the back. Okay, so when I was 16, I got hit in the spine with the door to a walk-in freezer. If you've ever seen a walk-in freezer in a kitchen in a restaurant, it's like those giant wooden doors with a steel bar handle. They're like 400 or 500 pounds. And I was standing in front of it cutting onions on a cutting board in my old family's pizzeria. And the door swings open and cracks me in the spine. And ever since then, like I had back issues and I was severely overweight. I used to be 320 pounds. So mind you, I'm 320 pounds, heavily doing drugs, sleeping on floors, touring the Disco Biscuits, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I was the model of health. And when I was 24, um, my back just finally gave out. And I had an L4, L5 herniation that was so bad that it shifted my pelvis out of place and rotated it. And I couldn't walk. I was laid up in bed for like 3 months and had to get an epidural shot in my back just to be able to get in the car and like cry to get to physical therapy. It was the worst year of my life. It took me a year to get back to like being able to function and walk and drive. And in those 3 months that I couldn't move, drugs were the last thing on my mind. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do anything. And I remember my birthday of that year, two of my good friends came over. And mind you, I haven't smoked weed in 3 months. They come over, my friend brings a rig and an e-nail and they roll like a giant blunt. And I take like a massive dab and we smoke this blunt and we're like high. I got back upstairs and I was so uncomfortably high that I used my back as an excuse. I was like, guys, like my back hurts. Like I gotta lay down. It was because I was so fucking high. I needed to like lay down and be by myself. And that was the first realization of like, okay, like when you smoke weed every fucking day, all day long for over a decade, it and then you don't for like 3 months, when you come back to it, it's not the same. Some people are okay with that and they work their way up, and people take tolerance breaks, and or did at least when we were in high school, because like, bro, like I'm not getting high anymore, like I'm gonna take 2 weeks off and then I'm gonna get stoned. And it was 3 months and I got high and I just didn't enjoy it. And then I tried to smoke weed a little more and I got back into it for a bit, and I would just do it at night to go to sleep, and it would help me a little bit if I was like in really bad pain or what have you, but it wasn't what it was anymore. So I was like, all right, cool. Like weed's not really my thing anymore. So I would still take acid and still do ecstasy and still drink and smoke weed when I felt like it and whatever. Um, but yeah, that was a major turning point. And then when I got my health together and I took my life back and I lost 120 pounds and I got into yoga and eating healthy and I changed my whole life. It just opened up the idea of more clean and healthy living in other ways, and it just trickled its way in. Um, and I just kind of, I started to do things less and less, and or at least not as much. Like I wouldn't eat a fucking 10 strip every week and what have you. Still a bowl, still an anchor, still like, oh cool, like somebody wants to eat that much acid, like let's go, sure. And I would also have my days where I'm like, now I want to. And I would just get fucking high as shit or go to a show and like eat. I remember I would like go to a show and eat pills or eat pressies and like just be so fucking high and in my bliss and having fun, because it wasn't the norm anymore. It wasn't an everyday occurrence. It wasn't the thing that I was doing all the time. Or at least not to the extent. And then I got back to smoking weed regularly. I got back to doing everything regularly and, still healthy living, but and really focusing on that healthy living, but not in terms of drugs or partying. I would still go to the parties, still do the everything. And I don't know if it was a particular turning point that made me go back to just like doing it all the time, but I did. And then I ended up in a very tumultuous time in my life. And in 2021 and 2022, I really experienced, depression for the first time in my life. And typically, when a semi-recovered addict is now depressed and has other things is not usually a good recipe. And drinking was never my crutch, but it became the safest crutch because I could do it in private and it was easy. And just because I knew I didn't want to go back to doing pills. So I was like, I'm just going to drink myself stupid. And that's something that I haven't really spoken about too much or told many people or really even dug into with anybody was that I really started to have I started drinking bad. I would like I'd get out of work and I'd go pick up a bottle of whiskey on the way home and not go to the gym and go and lay in my bed and drink Jameson until I fucking passed out. And I was just really sad and I was really depressed and I was mad at myself and I just was not in a good place. And I remember the day that I was sitting in my bed, drunk as fuck, and I went into my phone and I started looking for old phone numbers of people that I used to do pills with. And it was the first time in years that it even crossed the threshold of my mind. And I knew that that was really bad because I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back. I could not. I knew that I shouldn't go back and do pills and I knew that I shouldn't do it. And I fought every instinct to do it. And I'm glad that I did. But I was just at a point in my life where it was years of drug use and years of ups and downs and physical health journey, just alterations in life and death. And I lost friends to suicide. I lost friends that had OD'd. I'd lost friends that I knew so many people that like didn't make it to the other side. And want, I didn't think that I ever would be one of the kids that got there. When there's a needle and heroin on the table in front of you, you're like, well, maybe. But I didn't do it. And I was a good kid. I've always called myself a bad kid. And something that's been unearthed to me recently and a new perspective that I'm very grateful to my girlfriend Autumn for telling me is that I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person that did some really bad things and got wrapped up in some really bad shit. And it makes it a little easier to accept, but I still have to own the fact that I did those things and that I was that person. And love that person. Give that guy the love now that I wasn't able to give him then. So I finally had just gotten to the point in that depression that I was sad. I was like, I worked so hard to build myself up mentally, physically, get in shape, take care of my health, take care of my life. I found a girl that I fell in love with that it went to a point that in my person I was so sad of who I was. I was so angry at myself. I was so mad. And I just started to destroy all the things that I built. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I didn't know what way out. I knew there had to be a way out, and I didn't want it to be going back to pills, going back to other things. So I decided to come out to Colorado. I've talked about this on other episodes, but I had a really pivotal moment in my life where I decided I need to go and have that seeking experience. I need to go and I need to just go. I need to go and I need to find it and I need to figure it out. So I flew out to Colorado 2 years ago, almost to the day now. Actually, it was more than two because this was the week before I got sober. I flew out to Colorado to see Billy Strings at Red Rocks. And I flew out here, went to a friend's house that I know that's a crystal farmer, Went in the basement, saw all the Tupperwares. It's a really incredible feeling to feel LSD. The best way I can explain it is when you go to a show and you get hit with a wave of bass. When you walk into a basement like that, you just get hit with a wave of whatever. And I remember I go in the basement and there's this one Tupperware that's sticking out to me. And I walk over to it and I'm just kind of looking at it. And he walks over and he goes, "You have a really keen sense." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That is the best LSD that I've ever synthesized in this house. That is stuff that I got originally from my teacher who learned from Bear Owsley." So I'm looking at like real like family fluff, and I open this Tupperware, and it's like the scene in a movie where like the Tupperware opens and this like light and angels sing, and I was like, "Do you have any of this like laid on paper or in a vial or anything?" And he was like, "I actually just laid some sheets the other day." And I was like, "Cool. Give me a half a sheet." Gave me a half a sheet. I go back to the hotel. I throw my phone. I throw my duffel bag, and I ate the half a sheet. And I had a 3 day trip. I had a 3 day experience of, I remember I got a ride to the show from somebody I didn't have my phone. Nobody, I didn't find anybody. I didn't go look for my friends. My friends didn't find me. I just went and had a solo adventure. And I had to go to the venue and go, "Oh, I forgot my phone. I don't have my ticket." And both nights go to the ticket booth and give them my name and get a paper ticket, which you can do if you ever forget your phone or don't have a ticket. They have your name on a list or your email. And if you have your ID and can prove it, they will print you out a ticket. So you can figure it out. And the first night of Red Rocks, during the encore, Billy encored the song "Am I Born to Die," which is a Doc Watson cover that he does a cappella, no guitar, no band. And it's like 2.5 minutes long. Those 2.5 minutes felt like an hour. And I had an out of body experience. I really did. I cried. I was able to let things go, to accept things, to find new things. At one point I genuinely felt like I could see myself looking from above myself. I'm in Red Rocks in a sea of people overlooking the city, just in this chaos. And it just felt like me and Billy Strings, and I was just able to process, able to let things go, able to accept things. And yeah, I cried like a baby. And it was a moment that changed my life. I went through the next 2 days. Still now that I had that, I felt like I had the release. I just had high fun, and I was spun out. And I remember I got a ride to and from the show both nights from different people in the hotel. The second night I was walking. I started to walk from my hotel to Red Rocks, and I had a Billy Strings hat or jacket on or something, and somebody like pulls over and is like, "You going to Red Rocks?" And I'm like, "I'm trying." And they're like, "Fuck, dude, get in." And like, so it didn't really hitchhike, but sort of did. And I get home and I just felt different. I just felt different. And a few days later was Domefest, which is Pigeons Playing Ping Pong's festival that I had been attending for 6 years or 7 years since I started. I didn't miss one. And I went, and that year I held a mental health workshop at that festival. So mind you, I am in the worst mental place of my life. Just had this out of body experience. My life feels like it's crashing around me, and I have a mental health seminar to give. So I go to the festival and I try to have my fun, and I was having issues with this situationship that I was in at the time. And to make a long story short, I get to the seminar and I give it, and I put everything I had into that speech and into that workshop. And friends of mine, I luckily had like 90 people that attended on a 90 something degree hot day 3 of a music festival. 90 people came out, majority of them being my friends, which I'm forever indebted to for giving enough of a shit to come and listen to me talk. Um, but I made it through the seminar and it went well, and I have my friends that are crying in front of me and people are hugging me, and I make it through the festival. And as soon as my workshop was over, I had a moment where I said, "This is it. I am going to go party as hard as I can. I want to get it all out of my system." So I did. And I drank and I ate a lot of ecstasy and smoked a ton. I did everything that I wanted to, everything that I could get my hands on that I knew wouldn't be a problem if I did, because I would keep doing it. Make it through the festival, get home, sleep for a day, like literally a day. And I woke up and all my anxiety was gone. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what I didn't want. I knew what I should do. Exactly what I flew out to Colorado to seek that week gave me. And I ended the things that I was dealing with and ended the problems that I was having. And I said that was the last day. I don't want to do drugs anymore. I don't want to be this person anymore. I'm done. And since that day, I haven't. I took one hit off of a joint at Fish in Atlantic City later that summer, and as soon as I exhaled, I knew that it was a fucking mistake. Other than that, it has been 2 years. No weed, no acid, no ecstasy, no booze, no cigarettes, no. I don't even drink caffeine. I drink green tea once a day. That's about it. Um, it's been difficult. It's been a learning curve. There's temptation at every time I walk out of my door, there's temptation. I have friends that I love to death that love to party. I'm in parties all the time, but I have enough self control not to do it, because what I feel very fortunate about that week is that I did it because I wanted to, and I did it for me. I didn't go to rehab and have people telling me I needed to. I did it because I knew it was time. Like I said, I have had a lot of fun with drugs throughout the years. I've gotten high around the country, in green rooms, at festivals, in people's houses, Airbnbs, parties, in the woods, in underground rave, you name it. And now I'm having fun without it. And the thing I want to speak to about the sobriety the most is that when I made that decision, I didn't know where it was going to lead me. I didn't know if I was going to be able to hold on to it. I didn't know if I was going to be upset that I wasn't doing those things anymore. I didn't know how it would impact my relationships and my life and the things that I was doing. And like I think I said earlier, it has given me so much more than it's taken away. It has given me perspective. It's given me a raw, honest look at me. It's made me face myself without a crutch, without the ability to run away and get high, without the ability to forget. It's given me a desire to be better. It's given me further discipline. It's given me the ability to look back with reverence and be happy that I was a fucking degenerate that didn't care about anyone or anything, because now I do so much. It increased my capacity for love. It increased my understanding. It increased my patience. It gave me the confidence in me being me. It gave me proof of my identity within myself, of just me. And I can't attribute anything more, attribute that to anything more than my desire to be better and my desire to want to be the best version of myself for me, first and foremost. I want to be the best version I can for you. I want to be the best version I can for the people I love, for my mom, for my girlfriend, for my coworkers, for my friends. I enjoy being that guy. I enjoy being someone that people can look to for guidance or for positivity or relatability in their struggles. And if I didn't do all of the things that I did, if I didn't try all the drugs that I did, forget nights, have long days, I wouldn't be me. And I'm grateful for me. I'm grateful for the person that I've become. I'm grateful for the evolution that I've been able to sustain. And I'm grateful that I didn't die. I'm grateful that I didn't give in too much. I'm grateful that I didn't shoot heroin when it was handed to me. I'm grateful that I didn't call somebody to get pills when I was in that depression. I'm grateful that I've been able to find my center within myself. And that's a hard thing to find, and sobriety is tough. You know, being in this space sober is very challenging. Being in a crowd of 15 of your friends and everyone's passing around joints and taking bumps, and now a lot of my friends have gotten very good at not even thinking of me in that capacity anymore. It used to be I would always get past the joint and I would have to pass it. Oh, can you hold this drink? Can you hold this bag? Can you do this thing? I don't have any issues with that because I'm not, if I wanted it, all I have to do is make a phone call. If I wanted to get high tomorrow, I could call 25 people and get high, but I don't want to. I'm getting high off other things. I'm getting high off of my personal ventures. I'm getting high off of fitness and exercise and this foraying into mental health and being there for people and learning more and becoming a well-rounded version of me. And I'm getting high off the music. That's another thing to really talk about within the chemical culture that we're in within music. It has to be about the music first and foremost. When it's not is when it loses the authenticity and the passion and the reason that you're there. If it gets to the point that you're just going to a show to get high and not paying attention to the music, think about it. You know, if it's your release, it's your release. If you're in control of yourself and you can go to a show and black out and not do anything again for a while, cool. Like, I can't fucking judge. But there were points throughout my drug career, if we call it that, that it was not about the music. It was about the party. It was about the fun. It was about the drugs. And I commend anybody else that has gotten over that hump. I commend anybody who never even got to that hump. If you can go to a show and do a little bit of drugs or, just smoke weed and have fun, great. If you can go to a show and trip balls once in a while and have no problems, good for fucking you. I'm jealous. I and I hope that you keep doing it for as long as it serves you, and I hope that you stick with the things that make you you. And if you haven't gotten to the point of trouble or the point of having figured out that exploration, go for it. I tell my friends all the time, if you want to get sober, you'll get sober as many times as it takes. And it'll hit you when the time does. Until then, if you want to go rip lines in the fucking bathroom, get after it. If you want to black out, get after it. Who the fuck am I to tell you not to? But I can only share my experiences and share and shed light on the place that I'm in now. And sobriety has given my life more purpose. It has made me closer to the music. It has made me closer to my friends. It has made me closer to myself. And it has also removed me from the places that I do not belong, from the things that don't serve me. And that's okay. And that's a good thing. Getting sober, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot, or friends. I lost a lot of fun. I lost a lot of things about what I thought that my life was, what I thought my identity was. And now I have everything that I have without it. I have friends. I have family. I have a loving girlfriend. I have my health. I have this podcast. I have my hobbies, my life without it. Without those things, I don't need to get high to be me. I get high off of just being me. And I don't say that in a selfish or braggadocious way, but truthfully, like, I love myself. Some days more than others because I'm not perfect. But I've went through depression and cured it with drug use, and it didn't really work. I went through anxieties. I went through loss. I went through death. I went through all of those things. I tried to lean into drugs for all of them, and it didn't fucking solve any of my problems. It helped me get through it, and it helped me manage the emotions that I wasn't really able to or run away from them at the time. But now I'm just out here raw dogging life. I got no umbrella, no parachute, no condom, no nothing. Life, if life fucks me, it fucks me. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's okay. And I'm facing those things exactly as I am and the only way that I can. And it's crazy to look back on the past 2 years. It's crazy to look back on the like 16 years before that. All the nights, all the drugs, all the memories, all the people, all the mistakes, all the fun, all the adventure. I've lived a lot of life, and I credit a lot of that to my drug career and my journey with it. And as I said, there's a really interesting parallel within my musical career as well. I can't call it a musical career. I'm not a musician, but you know what I mean. Um, I feel very fortunate to have the things that I do. I feel very fortunate to be the person that I am. And sobriety is something that I never thought that I wanted, something that I never thought that I needed until it was. And now every day I wake up and I say, not today. And I am incredibly happy to be able to do so. And again, I'm no saint. I can't fool myself and promise myself that I won't find myself in a crowd again and want to take a hit off a joint. I can't promise myself that I won't want to have another explorative experience and take acid or make a mistake or something bad in my life happen. I'm not perfect. I'm fucking human. Sobriety is human. Drug use is human. Exploration is human. We're all just trying to figure it out and figure ourselves out and learn who we are and what we want and what we don't. And it's been 2 years. All that I also know is I got today. And some days that's all I need. I have forgiven myself for allowing me to get to those places. I've forgiven myself and accepted making those mistakes. I've forgiven myself for becoming a person that I didn't want to be. I am very lucky to be here today. I'm very lucky to be in the place that I'm in mentally, physically, spiritually. I'm very lucky to have people like you that are listening at the moment, that even if I don't have a musician to talk with today or anything else, this was something important to me. And sobriety is something important. And I know I didn't really talk too much about mental health, although I did sporadically throughout. But my mental health went on a roller coaster, as did my drug use. As I said, I dealt with anxieties, I dealt with depression, I dealt with death and loss, and the impacts of drug use on your psyche, the after effects, afterglow, ego death, all of those things are things that I look forward to really drumming out more and more throughout this podcast goes with other people too. But that first time you have an ego death is something. The first time that you get so high that you don't even know where you are is something. The first time that you recognize that you're using drugs as a crutch are all pivotal and all important to your development. So, something to leave this on and leave you with is it's okay to use drugs. It's okay to not want to use drugs either. It's okay to party. It's okay if you've been a person that's been in a place that somebody had to take care of you, because you have to get there sometimes to learn to take care of yourself. If you are having trouble, if you're having issues, ask somebody for help. It's not a weakness, it's a strength. Having enough wherewithal and enough self love and care to ask somebody for help and admit that you need it. And there are a lot of people that have gotten a lot worse off than I have with drugs. There's a lot of people that have been powerless to it. At times I have been myself. But if I can get sober, if he can get sober, if people like Steve-O can get sober, so can you if you want to. But don't let people bring you down and disparage you. Don't disparage yourself. Don't hate yourself. Don't be mad at yourself. It's human and it's a mistake and you can fix it. And also in respects, the people that can control themselves and just have a little bit of fun and party and be responsible, kudos. I respect you, and you should respect yourself and enjoy the fact that you can indulge. I really want to convey how incredible sobriety has been for me. This journey has led me to, amidst this sobriety, I've gotten in and out of relationships, and I'm currently in a beautiful one. I have refound my love and discipline and dedication for fitness. I have started this podcast. I've started making mental health related content online and on social media. I moved from New Jersey to Colorado. I've been with my company for 5 years, and they believed in me and I stayed on with them when I moved out here, and I've traveled and I've started new hobbies and climbing and hiking and seen more of the country and invested more in people and myself. And it has just given me so many beautiful things that I wouldn't have. I had beautiful things before, but I really enjoy the things that I have now. And for what it's worth, to anybody listening that's thinking about getting sober, why not? Give it a try. See if you like it. If you're not interested, that's fine too. Be you. Be human. Do what you want to do for you. Yes, there are the times that we want to be stronger for other people. Yes, there are times we want to be better for our spouse, for our younger siblings, for our parents, for whoever. But your journey with drugs and your journey with sobriety or your journey with musical endeavors, whatever, are for you. So do things and do it for you. I got sober for me. And I'm staying sober for me. However else it trickles out, the same way with the mental health things that I do, wherever it trickles out is a beautiful thing that I'm grateful for and appreciative of. But I'm doing it for me. So do it for you. And I always end these episodes by saying, I believe in you in every single fucking thing that you do in this life. And I love you. And today I also want to say that I believe in every single fucking thing that I do in this life. And I believe in me. And I'm proud of me. I'm glad that I got sober. I'm glad that I wasn't for as long as I was. And I'm grateful for my entire journey up to now. And if you have been a part of it, I appreciate you. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And in a real way, anybody that I've ever hurt or anybody that I have ever wronged amidst that journey, if you listen to this and you feel that way, I apologize. And for anybody who feels like they have ever slighted me or hurt me, if you're listening to this, I already have, but I forgive you. Sobriety is a beautiful thing. Having 2 years is a beautiful thing. Life is a beautiful thing. I appreciate anybody that took the time to listen to this episode. It was a little bit deeper and more meaningful to me, but that's part of why I'm building this platform. To highlight people, to highlight topics, to highlight myself, and to have these real kind of honest and organic conversations that we can all relate to so that we can strengthen our mental health together. I want to tell you to take care of yourself and stay safe. If you're partying, party hard, but party responsibly and party safely. And if you are having problems, if you're in trouble, if you need somebody to talk to, if you feel like you can't get off the crutches, ask somebody for help. Ask me for help. The handle of the podcast is at Musically Mindful with 2 L's. Or my personal Instagram is at that guy Renzetti. RenzeTti. Reach out to me. Because if nothing else, I can listen. I may not always be the best person to listen to, but I'll always be somebody to listen. So thank you guys for listening to me. Thank you guys for following my journey. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Anybody that supported me or said kind words about the podcast or about my health journey, about my sobriety, I'm internally grateful for those things, and compliments are not something I have done well with in the past, but I appreciate them. So thank you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Wherever you're at on your journey, it's okay, because wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. So whatever you do it for you. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care and be well.